Hello, everybody. Sorry for that botched opening right there. But I am Tim Higgins, Secretary at District 25, and here to continue part two of our Capturing the Classroom episode from last week, where we talked a little bit about how to capture, transfer, and store some of the video footage that you can gather from your classroom. So right now we're going to start with a little bit of a recap. Here today we'll probably be concentrating a little bit more on the editing, sharing portion of it. But I want to recap a little bit for anybody who didn't watch last week's. A few things about best practices for grabbing some footage. And if you remember, last week I talked a little bit about some of the environmental conditions that we want to keep in mind for making a solid video. One being sound. So what I had done before starting the episode is I made sure that there was nobody in the room to be making noises. All of our music is off. The only sound that you could probably hear in the background is a little bit of a fan from the servers back behind us, but there's not too much we can do about that. So just being aware of the sound happening, even if it seems distant, all of these devices tend to pick it up because electronics unlike us, can't tune out different sounds that are just happening. We can concentrate kind of on what's going on in front of us. These devices cannot, and it becomes very apparent once we have recorded. The other thing that I wanted everybody to pay attention to is lighting. So we're in these, in classrooms, fluorescent bulbs up in the ceilings, and it's just best to get as much light coming through as possible. It tends to look a little bit better when you can light yourself up as well as possible. So lighting, sound are things to pay attention to before you start recording. Once you are recording, it's great, depending on what your project is going to be, what you're looking to show people, you want to keep in mind the kind of camera shots and angles that you're using. And so, for example, we're going to go take a little bit of a walk around the room. Now, say we are looking to make a little bit of highlighting. So what we want to probably start out is giving ourselves either give us or oops. Establishing shot of the room, either just a pan coming in through the door, one of those things. What I grabbed before as well were some close-ups. So say now on the subject, we can do our long shot, which is just a full stand-up. Now, if I was giving a presentation about what is over here on our board, give a long shot. We can do a long medium shot, which is head down to the torso. We can do a close-up, which I'm a huge fan of. You can do an extreme close-up, depending on what we're talking about. But again, really, just giving yourself, before going into the editing process, you want to have as many shots as possible to work with, and using a big variety of these different things that we're talking about is really going to help in the final product. So let's also remember that we are lucky enough to have all of these devices in our classrooms, in our schools, and they all have cameras built in. So you don't have to have a fancy camera to be able to make these videos. I just use the camera app on the iPad. What we can do then, once it's captured into our camera roll, is go down to the Google Drive app that you'd want to install for free on your devices. You would want to talk to your building support technicians to make sure that those are installed in the devices in your building. And once you've signed in, we see all of the contents of your drive or whoever's drive you're signed into. And down in the right-hand corner is the little plus sign where we can upload whatever we would like. Okay, so I'm going to go into the camera roll, and earlier I took some different shots of Bubbles and Bubbles' area, the Tecker Turtle. I'm going to hit the plus sign, and we see that it loads up here, and we see the progress bar kind of come across the bottom of the screen. And so from there, what we're going to do, I'm going to share or turn that screen off. Hello, everybody. And we are going to head into my Google Drive on the computer. So what we've essentially done, we've grabbed some shots from the camera that we have about our subject that we're looking to make a video about. We've transferred it over to Google Drive, and what we're going to do now is we are going to use Google Drive to then pull it down onto our computer to then edit using iMovie. So I'm going to switch this over to use the entire screen. And so this Google Drive app is a great way to transfer. You know, if you do actually happen to have like a more professional camera or a consumer grade camera, a memory card is going to be the way that those images are typically stored. Or if it's an older camera, by maybe mini DV tape, in which case you will transfer it directly to the computer using either a card reader, a USB cable that'll transfer it, or some of the computers that we have, or the newer computers that we're stocking the buildings with, have a little card reader slot on the side of them that you can use as well. So we can see that down here we've got a couple images, or a couple files labeled image and then a number after it. These are the actual files themselves that we have just uploaded. And so what we can do is we can select each of these, either holding the Shift key, select the first one, Shift, select arrange, or we can hold the Command key and select anything out of order. And once they're highlighted in blue, we're going to go to our More Actions button, and we are going to download. Where down at the bottom, we're going to see that Google is preparing to download these items. What it's doing is it's compressing them. It's turning them into a .zip, a zip file. It's going to ask us where we want to save it, just like saving any other file. And in this case, I'm going to tell it to go to our desktop, and this is going to be our test footage. All right, and we see that down in the lower left-hand corner, that's going into its download process, where it is downloading here. We see the progress bar showing up down below. And remember, so last time too, I talked about a couple other ways of capturing footage. One being opening QuickTime Player and using File and doing either a new movie, which was going to use the camera built into your computer, a new audio recording using the microphone built into your computer, or using this new screen recording, which will record every single thing that happens on your screen, as well as the audio, you know, your voiceover, you talking and explaining. So this is great for explaining lessons, doing training, showing people how to go through specific processes on the computer on a certain website. New screen recording is great. It's a great tool. We use it here at Tech25 fairly often. You know, other ways of capturing yourself on the computer using Photo Booth, or as we talked about last week's episode, we can do a presentation via Google Hangouts, which will be recorded and then uploaded to YouTube. And we'll be talking about YouTube a little bit later. So our test footage downloading here onto our desktop. What I did actually, you know, like all those great cooking shows, is I downloaded some footage a little bit earlier. So I actually have our files here already. This is what it would look like once it's zipped, or once the zip file downloads. Once you click it, it unzips, it uncompresses, and turns them back into usable files. .mov is the file type that that Mac computers typically are using. All right, and so now we can hop right into this week's concentration, which is iMovie. And so iMovie on all of our district computers, typically a little purple star here. And what happens when we open iMovie is this. It shows a window pops up with all sorts of little sections, little items on the page. And I'm going to walk you a little bit through kind of what we are looking at here. And so the first thing what we want to do is that iMovie builds its projects with two types of files. It has an event, which is where we are going to upload all of that footage to, all of those video clips. And that's where an event is where that video is stored. And then a project window, or a project file rather, is the actual arrangement that we're putting together, taking the good parts of those clips, adding music, adding text, adding all sorts of extras to kind of dress it up and turn it into something nice. And so both equally important. And we are going to start with creating a new event. And we see that right over here in the left-hand menu here in our library, we just got a little folder with today's date. And we are going to call this Tecker Turtle. So we have our event. The next thing we want to do is create a new movie. In iMovie, it gives you all sorts of options of theme. So it kind of it builds different graphics and different things that Apple staff has put together in advance to kind of dress it up depending on what type of video you're doing. But I like to just usually go with no theme. You can always add a theme in after. So we're going to call our movie Tecker Turtle. We paired it with our Tecker Turtle event. And so now we see that top section is split into two. And now it's starting to take shape as we are going to be able to view it throughout this whole process. So on our left-hand side, we have our libraries. Up top is basically our media library. This is where our different events and projects are. And then down below is the content library, which we'll get to in a little bit. This is how you sort of add different aspects to your video to dress it up. So we see up top then we have our Tecker Turtle. This is our project file. And then down below, which is our media, this is actually our event window. This is where all of our media will appear once we import it. And then down below is the timeline where we'll start to arrange our clips. So the next step is, of course, to get some media to work with, and we're going to click the Import Media button. We are going to go to the desktop. We are going to our Tech25 footage, and I am going to select these clips. So as we can see, if we click on them, they give a little preview of in one of the frames of the video, but it also actually lets us play the video to make sure what we're looking at is actually what we want it to bring in. So you can hit play, you can skip on to the next one and kind of quickly get an idea of what our clips are here that we're looking at. And so again, I'm going to click on the bottom item, hold the Shift key, click the top to select them all, and we're going to import our selected item. And so now we see that our clips start to appear here in our event window, and we'll see that they start to go through the little pie icon in the lower left, or a little clock, is showing its progress on items being actually imported into this project, placed in the right place. So iMovie deals with where all the media is kept. So now that we've imported it, iMovie has stored it off in its own place in your movies folder on your computer. And actually that folder that's sitting on the desktop, we don't actually even need anymore. So we can throw that away. And this is an important point in just keeping things organized, conserving space on your computer. Delete stuff once you've imported it, because again, iMovie will store it elsewhere. So now we're ready to edit. So we have our event window with our media. We have our preview window over on the left. So whatever I hover over, we will preview over on the right. And then down below is our timeline. And so what we want to do is we want to start to look through here. Now, the little red line that we see here in our event window is called the playhead. Wherever the playhead is what we are seeing on the screen over on the right. And so we can, what's called scrub through, we can just easily, without clicking, we can just kind of hover over different parts of the clip and get a little preview as to what we are seeing over here, to be able to choose then what we actually want to add to our project. So we see that it's split into clips. And there are these breaks in between. So this is each clip that we've imported. When you hover over one, you get the duration of the entire clip. And that's about sort of the basic information that you get here in iMovie. So we know by scrubbing through that there's just a lot of garbage up front here before we even get to the subject of our actual video, which is Bubbles, the Tecker Turtle. So this whole clip really not all that useful. So I'm going to skip on over to the next.
and we see we've got a nice close-up of Bubbles here swimming towards the camera. So what we're going to do is we can click and drag, and we see that that little yellow box pops up here. And this is selecting a clip out of our main footage. And so we can easily readjust where that goes. And if that is something that we like, we can easily click and drag that down into our timeline down below. And so we've essentially started the editing process. We've taken a bit of a clip out of some original raw footage, and we're starting to arrange it in a way that's a little bit more visually appealing, that makes sense in terms of a story. So now, if you find that once it's down here, you're missing a part that you thought you wanted, no problem, because we can actually click and drag and adjust that clip when it's down in the timeline as well. So you just click and drag to adjust that. So we'll go up here, and we're going to grab a couple more clips. And a different way to actually grab a clip that's kind of nice is, now if we place the playhead here at the beginning of this clip and I hit the space bar, it'll actually start to play it back in real time with audio and everything. One of the nice features of this is that we can actually kind of watch it through, because when you're sort of just dragging through and adjusting, you don't necessarily get to see the motion that in the way that it will appear later. So if we hit play, we can play it through, and we see that the camera is actually going to pan back. So I'm going to hit the space bar and stop it, reposition my playhead here, and if I hit the I key on the keyboard, this sets what's called an in point. This is where our clip starts. If I hit the space bar again, we can play it through in real time, and when it passes the end of the jar of food, I can hit the O key, sets an out point, and it's essentially done what we did before, which was click and drag, except we actually got to watch the clip, and as we react to a specific clip, you can start it, you can stop it, and then we can hit the little plus sign here, and that'll add it to be the next item in our timeline. So we've just edited, arranged some items down in the timeline. And we have a video coming together. One other thing, so now that we've added some clips, we can see that there's a scroll bar, all of these clips showing up here. If I come into this midsection of the project and drag it down, we can make the size of the clips smaller. So it's not actually changing the clips, it's just changing the way we're viewing them so that we can see more clips all at once. So here they are arranged at the bottom. And so let's drag this up front, because this is sort of, let's say that we're kind of just talking about Bubbles eating. We see Bubbles in her natural habitat, swimming off ready for food, and then we're going to grab a clip of some fingers grabbing down to grab the food. And then we're going to get a clip of Bubbles actually eating the food as well. All right, so we got a nice little video going on. Now what we probably want to do is to kind of dress this up a little bit. We can add some transitions so that the clips switch a little bit more smoothly between one another. So if down in our content library, we can click on transitions. And now we see that our media has left our event window, and now we have all of our different choices of transition. All sorts of different types. And you can click on them, and it sort of gives you an idea. If you click on each clip and then hit the space bar, it'll play through sort of basically what the idea of that transition is. And so I like the cross dissolve, and so I want to add it. I'm going to click on it, I'm going to drag it here, and I'm going to put it between the two clips that I want to transition it. So you click and drag, and then you drop it in between the clips desired. Okay, so those are transitions. We can also add titles if there's no audio to sort of make sense of what's going on. We can put titles up, and same sort of thing. Content library, click on titles, click up here. If you like something, you drag it down and you drop it inside of your project here. And so we see that actually this one gives us a different layer. And so the way that this works is from the top down is the way that the layers appear in our video. So titles end up being on top, and they are transparent so we can see through. And so if I click there on our title and double click on the screen, we now have a little bit of text to introduce our video. So as we did up in the media library, if you click and put your playhead anywhere on this little timeline, hit the space bar, you can play through and get a little preview of what the video is looking like. It's a little bit jumpy right now, and that's because all of our effects that we're adding are what's called rendering. So the computer is going through and processing them and turning them into an actual cohesive project that we can export into a video. So all sorts of other things. We can add music if we wanted to from our iTunes library. So this, if we click on iTunes, it gives us all of the media that we have in our iTunes library. And we can, again, just drag it in. And we see as that layering works, all the audio ends up down here at the bottom. Just like our video clips, we can just click from the end and just drag it down to the desired portion that we'd like. And as we kind of add these different enhancements to it, we start to get a little bit more professional, a little bit more engaging of a piece of media here. So we're definitely starting to run a little bit low on time, and I want to definitely show us kind of how the export process works and how importing to YouTube works. But one thing I'd like to draw everybody's attention to is in the upper right. If I click on and highlight in yellow one of the clips, up in the right-hand side, we have some enhancements where we can come in and make different adjustments to the media that we're working on. So everything from being able to speed up and slow down, reversing the clip. So now we had started and it went from right. The camera pan from left to right before. It's now going right to left. We can do reversal like that. We can add different video effects, so basically filters that show up here just to give it some different effects. We can also adjust our highlights and our shadows and our midtones. If the footage that we got isn't lit desirably, you can come in here and sort of add to it. You can change contrast to try to brighten up your colors a little bit or bring it down to black and white. And then you can also deal with the temperature a little bit, so adding yellows and blues to kind of adjust the way that everything looks. You can also do white balance, which is what you would want to do is find something that is definitely white, pure white in the field of view, and the computer will then adjust all of the different colors to be as close as natural appearing colors as possible. And so I know that this bucket back here is a little bit better than they had looked previously. So the enhancements are up in the upper right hand corner when you select a clip down in your timeline. So we've put together a little video here, Bubbles eating breakfast, and what we want to do is we want to share it. And so if we come up here on our toolbar up top to the share button, we can choose a couple different things. Now, if we all have YouTube accounts, so you can all absolutely always go straight to YouTube, where it will ask you to sign in. And it'll send it straight in to YouTube, right to your channel. You can also share, send it to Vimeo, send it to some of these other places. You can send it right to iTunes in case you wanted to load it onto a device, or just have it saved in iTunes. You can send it to the theater, which would save it right here in iMovie, but as a finished video that you can then plug into a projector and show. Or you can even just select the file, and it'll save this file to your desktop. And so TechRaTurtle, I'm saving it to the desktop, and away it goes. So we see that if we come over here into the theater, which I clicked on up top, so we can switch between our library and our theater, it's going to start going through its progress of its export. And eventually, it will end up here on our desktop. We see it actually is starting to build the file right out here. That's where it'll end up, and we'll see that once we'll know that it's done when we can see a little thumbnail of part of the video. But I have this little bumper, the bumper that we open all the shows with now, is an M4V file, and then, so that's actually already out on our desktop. And so what I want to do is share our entire screen. And if I head into YouTube, to YouTube, youtube.com, I can click on this little icon in the upper left, and it'll let me come to my channel, and it'll bring me to my YouTube page. And from here, I want to just draw your attention to a couple different things. And actually, in the upper right-hand corner, we now have our share is successful. We see that down low, we have our TechRaTurtle icon has shown up. And so that video is actually ready to upload. So we'll upload that one. And so we'll close that. And so I wanted to show you the upload section. So if we click in the upper right-hand corner next to your icon, your picture icon, is the upload button. If we click that, we get a page that lets us select files to upload to YouTube. And it gives us a normal Finder window, so we can go to the desktop. We can select our TechRaTurtle video and click Open. It'll go through a process where it will upload, and then it'll go through a second process where it's going to process the video, and it just goes through and makes sure that all of those effects look right and that it's of a high quality, the highest quality that the video can be, to be shown on YouTube. So here we can also add in our description. We can also decide here how this is going to be shown on the website or on your YouTube page. So it can be public, which means that it's searchable on the entire internet. Anybody can search it, and it shows up on the front page of your channel. You can go unlisted, where it's not actually shown explicitly anywhere. It doesn't show up on the front page of your channel. It's not as easily searchable. You have to actually come into the page, search through the videos that are on this channel, or you can make it private, where you actually have to invite your viewers to see it all together. So for right now, we're going to go public with this one. We see that it's processed, ready to go, ready to publish, and we're done. So I'm going to return to save changes. We're going to click on the menu bar out here, and we're going to go back to my channel. And we are going to come to our video manager. And so from the video manager, we can, with the checkbox, deal with several videos at once. And so say we don't want this to be public, we've decided. We can set the checkbox, hit our actions, make it unlisted, and that will change how it's viewable on our site, on our YouTube page. From here, we can also go back into our edit section. change the description, change those things associated with that. Or we can click Add To, and we can add it to one of our playlists. So I had created playlists in the past. We see that over on the left-hand side under Video Manager are two subheadings, one of which is Playlists. And these are the playlists of the seasons of our 25 with Tech 25. And you can add, so from videos, from the video editor, you can select it, add to, and just send it right into one of those playlists to sort of group different videos together. Say the whole class was working on one specific project, but they all made different videos. You can put them together into a playlist based on that project. All sorts of different ways of organizing it. And so that is definitely the YouTube basics. Everybody has a channel with our District 25 sign-in information. And so that really is just sort of scratching the surface of both iMovie and YouTube. So of course, as always, if you have any questions, you can email myself, Tim Higgins, thiggins@sd25.org, or you can send it to tech25@sd25.org as well. That's a little bit about capturing the classroom. Tune in next week for next week's tech topic, and thank you for being here. Take it easy.